Zuco back with the birds with another Shadowlands video. What is going on? We are looking at Frost DK today. I'm actually really excited about Frost DK. I think it's going to be really good. So, we're going to look at legendary combinations, Covenant legendaries plus regular legendaries, and then we're going to look at all the different synergies that exist, and there's actually quite a few for DK, which is great. Some of the classes have like very little synergies between the legendaries, which is kind of sad. But DK is great. There's a lot of great synergies here. Um, and then the tier set bonus, which is really good and has further synergies with the kit. So let's just jump into it. We are Venthyr right now, and I think that when you're looking at Frost DK guys, there's kind of two builds, right? You're looking mostly at something like a Cold Heart, Breath of Sindragosa build combined with, let's say, something like Swarming Mist for Venthyr. Very, very good with Breath of Sindragosa. Or you could go something like Abomination Limb, which is also going to get you some Rhyme procs, which is again just really, really good for AoE. It doesn't actually generate any resources for you though. Sorry, I got everything all put in. It doesn't generate any of your resource, which is your runic power. It does give you Rhyme, which is obviously very, very good. So don't count out Abomination Limb. Obviously, it's good damage. It's going to give you Rhyme. This legendary is going to give you that. I'll talk about that in a second. But if you're looking at a Breath of Sindragosa build, something like Swarming Mist or even Death's Due, once you get this legendary, might actually be really good. If you're looking at a straight up Obliteration build, right, where you're going to go Inexorable and Oblit, or you could go Icy Talons and Oblit, in my opinion, you don't necessarily need the straight resource generation that Swarming Mist is going to give you. The runic power that it gives is obviously quite strong, but you might not need as much of it because you're not trying to keep up the Breath of Sindragosa damage over time. You're just focused on the huge hits, and you're bouncing between. Obviously, you press Pillar of Frost. You're bouncing between Frost Strike and Oblit over and over and over again, and getting those huge obliteration procs. So there's two different builds here, right? There's more of a single target focus, I would say, with the Oblit build. Then there's the AoE build with Breath of Sindragosa. So you need to evaluate your priorities in terms of what you're hoping to accomplish on your Frost DK. Are you going to go and do primarily Mythic Plus? In which case you probably want to do a Sindragosa build. Sindragosa actually isn't that bad in single target either. It's not actually that bad. But the Obliteration build, I think, is better. It does much more single target. But there's just two different styles. I think they're both exceptionally strong builds, and it's just sort of a different style choice. Whatever you want to do, depending on what content you're tackling, go for it. So let's look at the legendaries first. Okay, let's do that. So Insatiable Hunger for Venthyr. When your Swarming Mist ends, it detonates, doing shadow damage all around you and healing you. The amount of damage that this does is like incredibly high, actually. I was doing. Let's look at like this. Nope, that's not a good example. There's probably only one target there. Swarming Mist. I had the legendary on. Here's Insatiable Hunger. Here you see it did 8.5k. This is just the legendary portion of the Swarming Mist that I've got. I didn't have it up there. It did a little bit more there. It's obviously better in AoE. It did 6.2k there. Not very much. Only 1.6 there. It's certainly I don't know. My details is kind of messed up, but it's better in AoE. That's the main takeaway here. These are all just boss kills. But yeah, this is a great legendary. I love it. I've been using it on my guy right now. And it obviously has a lot of healing, which is good if you're tanking. Very, very good. But the damage increases by 2% for every 1 runic power that you spend. So if you press this, and then you press Sindragosa, Sindragosa's draining runic power the entire time, it's going to really amp up the detonation damage. Let me just show you. Let's just show you, because all these were really terrible examples. Let's go to our current segment. Hopefully this works. I don't know if it's bugged right now. I think it's bugged. I tried to refresh it, but... Current segment. Let's try it out right here. So I'm going to get some runic power going. I'm going to get almost capped on runic power, and then I'm going to press Sindragosa plus Swarm. So we're going to go in. There we go. Do some damage. Okay, we're gonna go right now. We're going to press... Oh, let's get Frost Strike. Okay, here we go. We're gonna go Swarm, Syndragosa, and we're breathing. Here comes the damage. You can press your dragon too if you want to. We're capped. We're capped, which is okay. We're still breathing. Obviously, every time we cap on runic power, we're fighting this. We're fighting the breath right now, right? Breath is continuing to pull us down, but that's okay. We're gonna hold for a second. We don't really want to press Frost Strike because it's gonna drain our runic power. We want to breathe as long as possible. We're losing it. Ugh. Need to get some runes back. Oh, we're gonna lose it here. There we go. Okay, we lost it. That's fine. There's 8k AoE. Here's the Insatiable Hunger detonation that I was just talking about, okay? This is this legendary that I'm wearing. This is just the detonation thing. It says it only does 1,257 damage. You can see in the tooltip there. It did 31k, okay? So what's happening there is that every one runic power I'm spending buffs the damage of this detonation by 2%, and if you're spending runic power from Breath of Syndragosa, it's just tons and tons and tons of runic power that it's dumping, and it's buffing. It's going to be buffing the damage. So it's a great combination, really great detonation and AoE. This just did 8% of my AoE damage there, which is crazy. Obviously, Breath takes the cake at the top there, but you can see the build, the combination there, okay? That's one of the best combinations for builds that I can think of in terms of going into 9.2. You want to combine Insatiable Hunger with any of the other normal ones. We'll get there in a minute. I actually love Absolute Zero, but we'll get to this in a minute. You can obviously combine it with Remorseless for more AoE. Okay, but that's a good legendary there. It helps to enable the Breath of Syndragosa build, right? So, final sentence with Shackle the Unworthy. I was playing Kyrian earlier, and it does a lot of damage, actually. The Kyrian Covenant ability does a lot of damage. It has this, and Shackle the Unworthy baseline doesn't give you any resources. It simply does a ton of damage, and it reduces the damage the enemies do to you, so it's good for tanks. And then this legendary makes it so that you get a rune instantly whenever it spreads. So it's bad on single target. You're not going to get really a lot of benefit out of this in single target because it's not spreading. But in AoE Mythic Plus, you can spread Shackle the Unworthy. Whenever you spend runes on a target, it'll spread the Shackle. And every time you spread, you're going to get a rune back. So this is really strong in terms of rune generation, which is really great. So if you're looking for that build, maybe a little bit better for an Obliterate build because Obliterate costs runes, right? So maybe you take Final Sentence and instead you go for the Oblit build and you just keep getting runes back every time you spread Shackle the Unworthy in an AoE situation. Shackle the Unworthy is only a 1-minute cooldown, so you can use it quite a bit. So that's a good combo right there for the Oblit build. Abomination Frenzy, this gives you Rhyme every 4 seconds. The frequency, I forget the frequency that it gives it to you, but I believe it's every 4 seconds instead of 6 seconds now. So you get Rhyme instantly, and then you get it every 4 seconds instead of 6, which means you're getting an extra Rhyme, a full extra Rhyme, which is great. Rhyme is one of our passives, obviously, for Howling Blast, makes it do 300% more damage. Really, really good for AoE. Really, really strong for AoE. Abomination Limb was already good for AoE, but bottom line is this is just going to give you more Rhyme procs, which is more free damage. No resource generation though whatsoever. So maybe this is more of an obliteration build, and all of your, even though you're doing obliterate and you're focusing on single target with Abomination Limb legendary, you're getting the Rhyme procs, which is going to buff your AoE damage. So you're kind of like splitting half and half there. You're getting the best of both worlds. You don't have to go for the Syndragosa build for AoE. So I think that's actually really interesting there. The fourth one's a Night Fae, which is Death's Due, which replaces your Death and Decay and becomes Death's Due. You just put that big puddle on the ground. This is interesting because it gives you 2% strength, and it stacks up, and you keep getting more and more strength. And then this second part of it's really good. While you're standing in your Death's Due, your runic power generation is increased by 20%. That's no joke. That's actually really good. When you combine that with the Hysteria engraves your weapon, then increases your maximum runic power, and your attacks have a chance to increase your runic power generation by 20%. You could have 40% runic power generation, which is like a ton of runic power generation, which means you could do a Syndragosa build with that, right? Again, we're trying to look at what builds. So if you go Night Fae, you could potentially throw Death's Due down, have the strength bonus stacking up so you're doing more damage, and then you get the runic power generation. So you're just standing in your puddle and doing Breath of Syndragosa, and you're really able to fight the Breath of Syndragosa degen a lot better because you have such a crazy high amount of runic power generation. So that's really good. That's how I think all the different Covenant legendaries are going to interact with our talent kit. Again, we're looking at the two different builds primarily, right? AoE focused with Breath, single target focused with Oblit. Um, those are really good. So what are we going to combine these legendaries with in 9.2? What normal legendaries are we going to use? I think Absolute Zero is incredibly strong. I was running this before I got the Swarming Mist legendary, and having like the Frostworm on a 1.5 minute cooldown is just so insane. It's really, really good. It doesn't always line up with your Pillar of Frost or your Empowered Rune Weapon, right? I understand that. So that can be a little bit annoying. But all on its own, it just does so much damage, and having it back every minute and a half is just really solid DPS gain. It does freeze enemies, but that's sort of negligible because um, when somebody hits those enemies, they come out of the freezing effect. But just having the cooldown reduced is really good, guys. It's really strong. I was trying in a dungeon, really really good. Obviously, if you're doing an obliteration build, you're gonna want to always probably pick Coltiras. This is what you would have been picking anyway. So you go for Oblit, go Inexorable, and take Coltiras. Then you can combine it with any of these other legendaries that you want. Again, maybe these are all kind of good at AoE, right? All the legendaries for the Covenants, Insatiable Hunger, Rampant Transference, Abomo, and Final Sense, they're all good at doing AoE damage. So you could have an Obliteration build with Coltiras and combine it with any of the other four Covenant legendaries. They would all be fine. Um, yeah, it's just solid there. And then again, you could really have any of these three. I think these are all strong. Remorseless Winter one is really good. These are all strong, guys. Pick whichever one you want. And then the Covenant Legendary, pick whichever ones you want. I think it really depends what build you're going for. If you're going for a Breath build, you're going to want something like Swarm, excuse me, maybe something like the Night Fae one to just stand in there and be breathing at all times. So really, you can pick any of the ones that you want. They're all going to be strong that way, but some of them are more synergistic with whichever build you're going. Okay, so let's just move over to the tier set bonus. This is where it gets really cool. So the tier set bonus for Frost is very exciting. I'm going to read it. Remorseless Winter, the two-piece, grants 8% crit when active. Crit is just like, crit is our king stat, right? You want crit all the time because of Killing Machine. Your auto attack crits have a chance to make your next Obliterate crit and do frost damage. Your mastery increases all frost damage, right? So crit is like the catalyst through which everything in the Frost Death Knight kit functions. You need crit to make everything work. Everything is about crits. So um that is really good. That is extremely strong. Um this is basically going to get you to Killing Machine much more often, okay? That's good. Consuming Killing Machine fires a Glacial Advance through your target. Okay. This is the four-piece bonus. This is also super exciting. Let me just go back here and get to the game. So what's Glacial Advance? Glacial Advance is this talent down here. It's you can take Glacial Advance if you want actually, but now you don't have to. You can just get the Remorseless Winter extension talent, which I think you're going to want to get because Remorseless Winter grants you 8% crit whenever it's active. So like this feels like a must-have talent now for the tier set bonus. Every rune you spend during Remorseless Winter extends its duration. Obviously, that's a must-have. Let's go back to the game here, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like in practice. So, Glacial Advance is just a talent we can take down here. Now, this is something that you can take if you want to, but this tier set bonus basically just says that anytime you consume Killing Machine, you're going to fire a Glacial Advance, which again is very good for AoE. Glacial Advance not only does damage, but it also applies Razor Ice to enemies near the eruption point. So what I'm guessing there is it's going to fire like a line straight through, and any mobs that are near that line that you're firing are going to get Razor Ice applied to them, which is this Rune of Razor Ice, which makes them more vulnerable to frost damage, and it stacks up to 5 times. So this is actually really crazy. There's a whole bunch of like implications here for this tier set bonus. First of all, the fact that you're going to get Glacial Advances for free and they're going to apply Razor Ice for free means that you don't necessarily have to engrave one of your weapons with the Rune of Razor Ice anymore, which is what you're going to always want to do as a Frost DK, because obviously that's just it's going to do more frost damage, right? But instead now, if you're going to get those procs for free, you can actually engrave maybe something like Fallen Crusader. Just go back to the standard Fallen Crusader where you get 15% more strength, right? And that's going to be proccing all the time. Or if you're in a very particular situation in a raid where you want to be more defensive, you could get Spell Warding. Um, I don't think Sanguination is definitely, it's going to buff your Death Strike, but hopefully you're not going to have to be pressing that. But Spell Warding is certainly an option. Fallen Crusader is the most likely one that I'm looking at. Makes a lot of sense. Unending Thirst is, again, mostly for when you're raiding or when you're running out in the open world. So, in my opinion, if you're going to dual wield with Frost DK, you're always going to want to take Razor Ice and Hysteria. Those are both really good. Hysteria is huge for extending your Syndragosa windows, obviously, right? And getting that working. Razor Ice is just way more damage. But this tier set bonus, Consuming Killing Machine, fires off a guaranteed Glacial Advance through your target. That means that you're getting this rune for free, which is very huge. It means that you could probably switch to Fallen Crusader and you would still have the benefits of both. That's the first implication of this tier set bonus. The second one is that I think that Icy Talons becomes really, really strong. Um, and the reason for that is because this is going to increase your melee attack speed by 15% if you have it stacked up to 3 times, which means your chance of proccing Killing Machine goes way up because you're attacking 15% quicker, right? And you're attacking with 2 one-handed weapons, so like you're attacking a lot, very, very frequently, and your chances of getting the Killing Machine proc, I think, go way up with this. So I think that this talent becomes much, much better. A lot of Frost DKs don't take this talent. I think this talent becomes exceptionally strong with this tier set bonus of because you want to get back to Killing Machine as much as possible. The other thing is that the Obliteration build now becomes incredibly strong as well. And because you have guaranteed procs of your Killing Machine, let me show you what I mean. When you pop Pillars of Frost, every time you hit Frost Strike, it's going to give you a guaranteed Killing Machine proc, which with the 4-piece set bonus would give us, there's one proc right there. I'm going to get it again. Here's 2 procs of Killing Machine. Here's my 3rd proc of Killing Machine. I got my 4th proc of Killing Machine. Here comes the 5th one. And we're out of the window, right? So that was 5 in a row. So there we go. I just did 5 obliterates with the Killing Machine proc on them because of this Obliteration talent, right? Whenever Pillars of Frost is active, Frost Strike and Howling Blast always give you Killing Machine. So this suddenly becomes very, very strong. You get 5 or 6, let's say, guaranteed procs for the Glacial Advance to fire off, and the Glacial Advance is going to automatically apply your Razor Ice. So this makes like the single target version of Frost DK competitive, I think, in AoE. It might not be quite as good as Breath of Syndragosa, but let's pretend like you're doing this single target build with Obliteration and you take Icy Talons up here, and then on AoE packs, you're simply focusing on your Rhyme procs, which you would normally do anyway. But when you get Pillars of Frost back, you just press it and you do your combo, and you're going to get 5 free obliterates. I mean, I have really low haste, so it'd be more like 6 or 7 by the time you're done. You're going to fire off all those Glacial Advances. Those are all going to do AoE damage, and they're all going to apply the Frost damage debuff to your enemies. So this makes, I think, the Obliteration build very, very good. Maybe just better than Syndragosa. I don't know, maybe not. We have to do some testing, right? Obviously. But that's what I'm kind of looking at, guys, where you can. The tier set bonus is exceptionally strong. You're going to put Remorseless Winter up, and you're going to make sure that you have Gathering Storms. You can extend Remorseless Winter, so you have 8% crit all the time, 8% extra crit. Then you can go Obliteration. You can go into this window where you get 6 or 7 obliterates off with the Killing Machine buff on them. They're all going to do a lot of damage, and then they're all going to fire off Glacial Advances. So right now, if that's 6 or 7, that's an extra like 7,000 damage in AoE, and then you're going to get the Frost Razor Ice buff applied to all enemies when you do that. So that's the obvious combo that sticks out in my mind. And I think the 4-piece bonus in particular is exceptionally strong for Frost DK. it's just going to give us lots of extra damage, and I think gives us some flexibility in terms of our talents and what we want to be looking at here. But I do think that the value of Icy Talons goes way up here compared to something like Cold Heart, or you would have taken an Inexorable Assault with the Obliteration build normally. But I think that Icy Talons really looks strong to me here. So that's the 2-piece and 4-piece set bonus, and those are the powers that we've kind of reviewed. I think that overall, Frost DK is going to be very, very strong moving into 9.2. I think that you can take any real combination of these Covenant legendaries. You can go whatever Covenant you want. They all do really good AoE damage. Like I said, if you're going for the Obliterate build, you could go with Coltira's, and this would be very strong with the tier set bonus, like I was just talking about. Go for the Obliteration talent, right? Combine it with Coltira's. Your Obliterates might just have a chance to continuously proc themselves because they're giving you runes back. Um, that might be just really, really good. And then if you want, you could go Absolute Zero for more AoE, but you might not need as much AoE anymore because you're going to get free AoE from your tier set bonus. So yeah, there's lots of options here, guys. That's the bottom line. I do think that there's some sort of Night Fae gameplay here where you could get the 20% more runic power generation and combine that with the Hysteria, getting another 20%, and then you just go for a Syndragosa build and you just stand in it and do mad AoE. But that's it, guys. That's what I'm looking at for Frosty K. I think it's going to be very strong. It looks like there's going to be a lot of awesome builds, diversity, and it's going to be very, very exciting. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.